compelling detective story, a cloak and dagger action, and a romantic drama, all these stories were taken from real life. The history of Kazakhstan is inseparable from the world history. Reflections on history, our version.
Not the last secret. If a husband died, his wife wailed a long song about his character and the way they lived together every morning when the sun rose and every evening before dusk. She did it for a year, and other young women would help her. A year after his death, the widow would marry either her husband's close relative or the person she chose herself. This helped her forget about her first marriage. It's interesting that he was thinking about when writing these lines. Probably he thought about his eldest son. The most talented person who had to carry on the family line finally got married, but all hopes were ruined. He looked at a saukele, or bridal headdress, and decided to send it to Moscow. Of course, it's only an assumption, which is sensational to a certain extent. Anyway, what if it was really true? This saukele is connected with Chingis Valikhanov's name. He was Chingis Valikhanov's father. When he acquired this exhibit for the Future Ethnography Museum in Moscow, his son had already died an untimely death.
Для будущего музея народоведения в Москве уже безвременно оставил этот мир.
The background to this story should be provided. In the spring of 1864, a request for information about the Kyrgyz-Kaisak's traditions was sent to Omsk in the run-up to the first ethnographic exhibition. A member of the Geographical Society, ethnographer and senior sultan, Chingis Valikhanov, responded to the request. There are some interesting facts saying that Chingis Valikhanov's father sent these ethnographic artifacts, including a Kazakh bride's costume, the same year Chingis Valikhanov died. These mysteries haven't been solved yet. They include the last year of Chingis Valikhanov's life, his mysterious marriage, and the bride's costume. The awe we are supposed to feel when looking at this exhibit is perfectly understandable. The story about the saukele is really mysterious. It's clear that she married Jakub and bore him children. However, there is no information about herself. Chapter 1. A mysterious exhibit. On the last day before a bride leaves her parents' house, she says goodbye to her relatives and friends and wails songs. Her closest relative is dressed up in the bridal dress. She is sent to invite the guests who are treated to the meat prepared in advance, and some people are also treated to tea. The relative goes to invite the guests on the bride's horse, which the bride will ride when getting married. Afterwards, the guests are entertained in various ways. The St. Petersburg Ethnographic Museum contains Sultan Chingis Valikhanov's accompanying note to the unique exhibit. This is one of the oldest exhibits of our collection. It could date back to the first half of the 19th century. They put on a saukele and made a step towards the future motherhood. This headdress was worn not only during the wedding. A young wife wore it during holidays and celebrations until she gave birth to her first child. This headdress was handed down from generation to generation. When a woman became part of a family, she would give her saukele to her sisters-in-law or keep it for her daughter. I should say that a saukele cost a fortune, which is why it was made beforehand. When a girl was born, her mother started working on the headdress.
Уже заранее, когда уже девочка рождалась, уже мать уже постепенно все это уже собирала, какие-то украшения.
It took about a year to make such a saukele. The higher the headdress was, the lower a bride had to bow to her husband and his parents. It was considered a good omen if the top of the headdress touched the hearth of a yurt when the bride was bowing.
Здесь и кораллы.
There were corals and stamped silver plates. There could be gems on it too. However, the most important thing about this headdress was its sacred meaning, the power which filled it.
Смысл, те силы, которые, по идее, наполняют этот головной убор.
It was the symbol of a new life and an amulet. The richer a bride was, the longer the frontal decorations were. Sometimes they even reached the bride's knees. Although they're a bit shorter here, this saukele was obviously made for a girl from the upper class. A saukele reflected the financial position. The most outstanding in artistic respect were intended for the rich.
Апогея своего художественного достигал, конечно, в saukele, предназначенном для богатых.
A quilted dress was made of Central Asian violet satin, which was a very expensive fabric. Its collar was decorated with European velvet. There is no doubt that the costume was worn. Who did this bridal attire belong to? Probably Shokan's wife Ayseri owned it. Chapter 2. More questions. A gentleman, or dandy, married a Kyrgyz girl as if he was looking for a simple childhood feeling because he got tired of the various seductions of the capital and high society. His cradle had been in a yurt, and before death he returned to his hearth, where the solemn quietness of the steppe reigned. Of course, Shokan's friend, Yadrintsev, waxed poetic and at the same time simplified it to a certain extent. What really happened remains unclear. Altyn-Emel was the place where the Sultan Tezek's village was situated, and Chingis Valikhanov was buried there. Koshin Togan, who was Chingis Valikhanov's wife's father, was buried near him. This is his tombstone.
Он рядом покоится. Вот это его надгробный камень? Да, надгробный камень его.
Ayseri was not buried next to her first husband. Shokan's wife spent her last years in Sirimbet. It was a very strange marriage between an outstanding young officer who had won a lot of women's hearts and a plain sister of Sultan Tezek, who Shokan Chingisovich did not regard with favor. Ayseri was not described in literary works, and we can't find her description in any documents either. Only a few lines dedicated to her have remained. According to Valikhanov's friend, Ishmurat Ibragimov, although Ayseri was not beautiful, she was a clever woman. Ayseri and Shokan lived a short but happy life. She respected her husband and Shokan respected her too.
жаңағы Айсараның Шоқанды керемет сыйлауы.
Nevertheless, it's doubtful that there was a great love between them. It's unclear why he got married. Some researchers say that the explanation for it lies in Valikhanov's quite difficult financial situation. Other researchers are confident that Shokan's wife became a hostage to the so-called Great Game. They tend to see spy motives behind their marriage. Tezek's village was on the border with China, where revolts were spreading. These revolts could have been stirred up by the English, and Shokan reported on them to Kolpakovsky regularly. Envoys arrived there to see Tezek, and a representative of China lived there too. It happened, well, we can say it happened during the last year before his death. When their wedding took place is not clear either. Shokan had many friends, but they did not congratulate him on his marriage because there are no recollections or letters about it. Probably they did not celebrate their wedding. Otherwise, famous improvising poet and singer Soyun Bai and his 18-year-old pupil Jambul would have taken part in it, and people would have remembered this. There's no information about the wedding reception. We shouldn't forget that Shokan was ill at that time.
Надо забывать о том, что Чокан был больным на тот момент.
According to the service record in late January 1865, First Lieutenant Valikhanov was still single. It means he had only 2 months to get married. According to the official version, Shokan died from lung disease on April the 10th. However, he was seriously ill when he got married, which was quite strange too. Chapter 3. Our lips are sealed. In his last letter, Shokan wrote to his father, "Arrive in Jetisu and take my poor Ayseri with you. Don't leave her alone, as she needs attention and care." In the summer of 1865, a caravan was sent from Kokshetau to Altyn-Emel to fulfill Shokan's dying wish. There's an assumption that she was pregnant, but obeying levirate marriage law, she married his younger brother, Jakub.
Она выдана была замуж за его младшего брата Жакыпа.
Старший брат?
An older or younger brother married a widow to provide for her children, which was benevolent. It isn't practiced now. Jakub married Ayseru, and a boy was born 7 or 8 months later.
Женился. Через 7 или 8 месяцев рождается мальчик.
However, documents do not confirm the legend about Chokhan's child. 30 years after Valikhanov's death, Grigory Potanin went to Sirembet to visit Sultan Chingis, who was then 85 years old. Sultan Chingis' estate was a large manor house with 3 outbuildings, barns and a mosque. Jakub divorced his wife, who had been Chokhan's wife before. Now she lives with her children in an outbuilding. Potanin did not mention why Jakub had divorced Ayseru. Chokhan's best friends didn't write anything about his wife except for these lines. It's strange that he didn't ask her about Chokhan's last minutes of life and didn't find out if she had any manuscripts, although he was collecting Chokhan's written heritage at the time. Potanin didn't even visit her, at least he didn't mention it anywhere. The same can be said about many other of Valikhanov's friends, officials and other people who made efforts to set up a monument to him, republish his works, and wrote articles. They mention Chokhan's wife very rarely. We went to the yurt of Tezek's sister, who had been Chokhan Valikhanov's wife. We expressed our heartfelt condolences to her, saying we were sorry about the untimely death of her husband. The widow seemed overcome with grief, but didn't try to impress us or cry. Her face was very kind. Alexander Gaines arrived in the steppe as the head of the special commission. It was an official visit, during which he collected materials for the ethnographic exhibition. As part of this visit, he talked to Chokhan's parents in Sirembet and then went to Altyn-Emel. Chingis Valikhanov wrote that during this visit, he had given Gaines some of the things. Chingis, as the senior sultan of the Kokshetau region, collected costumes, complete costumes, and sent them to the exhibition free of charge.
О значении которых я уже говорила, и прислал их безвозмездно на выставку.
I handed the remarkable and amazing costumes belonging to the Kaisaks, and especially the one belonging to the previous Khan, my late father, to Major General Gaines, who had arrived together with a commission to the steppe in 1865. The other valuable things I brought to the Moscow exhibition. The saukele was not mentioned in the letter, but judging from the sent exhibits, it probably belonged to a relative from their family too. Chingis didn't feel like collecting ethnographic valuables because only half a year had passed since the death of his beloved son. Most probably, he gave things which he could have found easily. Probably these things caused pain to the father, and he may have tried to get rid of them as soon as possible.
Отца, и он вполне мог сделать так, чтобы побыстрее от них как бы избавиться.
We can say that the girl who wore these clothes was of medium height and stature. Gaines and other contemporaries didn't describe any special features of Ayseru except her kind but unattractive face. We can say that Valikhanov's wife really had all these characteristics of an average woman. Although the arguments were obviously weak, this wedding attire could have belonged to her. Epilogue: The right to silence. Another argument in favor of this version is the fact that usually saukeles were handed down. However, it doesn't seem that they regretted giving this one away. The wedding amulet hadn't been able to protect the young family. Most likely what Ayseru meant to Chokhan would remain a secret as well. Now we, unrelated people, are trying to find out everything about his life, but a person has a right to privacy. The ethnographic exhibition was held in Moscow in 1867. Chingis Valikhanov received an award for the items he had provided free of charge. The exhibits, including the saukele, were handed to the Museum of the Peoples of the World, and later the unique items were transferred to the St. Petersburg Ethnographic Museum. Of course, a part of the descriptions would be lost during the transportation. The only information which remained in the documents said that the bridal attire was donated by Sultan Valikhanov.